Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something I think we all kind of grapple with. How to stay steady when it feels like the world's just constantly shouting opinions at us, you know?
Right, the external noise, it's relentless.
Exactly. And you've sent in a really fascinating set of YouTube transcripts. They all touch on this core idea of finding inner peace despite all that noise.
And a lot of it, interestingly, loops back to Carl Jung's work.
Yeah, it does. So our mission today is basically to pull out the most valuable stuff from these sources, give you, the learner, a shortcut to understanding how to be less swayed by the outside world and more grounded in your own strength.
Precisely. We've got material from Philosophical Effects, Psychotic, Depth Psychology Hub, Dreamium, Elevate Journey, and Mental Dose.
Quite a mix.
Yeah, what's cool is how these different voices exploring, emotional independence, resilience, they often land on similar principles, especially from Jung.
Right. And for you, the learner, listening in, our goal is to make this digestible and, well, actionable. We want those aha moments, but without feeling totally overwhelmed.
We'll synthesize the viewpoints, pull out practical steps, use some memorable examples, hopefully, to help you grasp these ideas quickly.
Okay, let's jump in then. One of the first things that really struck me from several transcripts, actually, was this idea of the emotional prison of external validation. Sounds intense, right?
It does, but it's such a common trap. People constantly measure themselves against what others think, seeking approval in actions, words, even like our online presence. There's this relentless pursuit.
And it leads to weariness, right? The transcripts mention a real exhaustion.
A deep exhaustion. Yeah. And chasing that approval often just creates this bigger internal void, like legs become like shackles.
Totally. It feels like we're all putting on a performance, playing roles we think others expect us to play.
Yeah.
And the irony is, as Philosophical Effect pointed out, the validation we're chasing, the likes, the praise, it always seems to slip through our fingers,
leaving us feeling even more empty sometimes.
So what's really driving this need for approval?
Well, it taps into a really fundamental human need, doesn't it? The desire for acceptance, to be seen, to be valued.
Sure, that makes sense.
But the crucial difference here, and the transcripts are clear on this, is the fine line between wanting genuine connection and becoming, as one put it, a hostage to the opinions of others.
Right, a hostage. That's where the loss of emotional autonomy.
Exactly. The more energy we pour into controlling how others see us,
the more vulnerable we actually become to their opinions, which change all the time.
It's like handing over the keys to your emotional well-being to this, totally unpredictable committee.
Yeah, a committee that can't make up its mind. And the cost, these sources really emphasize this, is huge.
Inner peace goes out the window.
Authenticity, too. Just navigating life with any kind of serenity becomes impossible. You're just constantly performing.
So it really raises a big question, for anyone listening.
You, the learner.
To what extent are you willing to keep negotiating your authenticity for that fleeting approval?
Trading peace of mind for a like. It's a powerful thought.
It really is.
Okay, so we get the problem. It's real. Now, what's the first step towards, inner peace? Carl Jung comes up a lot here, offering a path to this emotional freedom.
He does. And it starts, as several transcripts noted, with recognizing our own unconscious patterns.
The patterns in our unconscious.
Right. And what's fascinating is Jung's concept of individuation. It's really important to get this right. It's not about isolating yourself.
No, not becoming a hermit.
Not at all. It's described more as this courageous journey inward, into the deepest layers of who you are, to recognize and importantly integrate both the light and the dark aspects within.
So individuation isn't escaping the world. It's more like bravely exploring and owning your whole inner landscape, the good, the bad, the messy.
Exactly. The light and the shadow.
One transcript had a great analogy. The unconscious is like this vast inner ocean, right?
Yeah.
Full of invisible currents.
I like that.
And these currents are our unconscious pattern, shaped by everything, past experience, unresolved stuff, limiting beliefs, even ancestral baggage.
And often they're running the show without us even realizing it.
Totally unaware. And this is where criticism comes in, isn't it? Because when someone criticizes us,
it can actually trigger these pre-existing emotional wounds. It resonates with old hurts, confirms negative stories we tell ourselves, maybe stories we didn't even know were there.
So understanding these patterns, like Jung suggests, gives us a way to change how we react because they're driving the reaction.
Absolutely. It's like you can't fix a problem if you don't even know it exists, right?
Right.
Imagine you're walking around wearing, blue-tinted glasses. You don't realize they're there, but they're coloring everything. Those are your unconscious patterns. And criticism can suddenly make you go, wait, am I wearing blue glasses? Is my view skewed?
Okay, so we've got this unconscious baggage, criticism comes along and just sets it off. What's the first practical step then? The transcript seemed pretty unified on this.
Yeah, attentive and compassionate self-observation. That's the key starting point.
So just noticing.
Pretty much. Start noticing when criticism hits you the hardest. Pay attention. What emotions come up? What thoughts keep looping? Any physical sensation?
They get knot in your stomach.
Exactly. One source put it nicely. It's like turning on a flashlight in the dark depths of the unconscious, just bringing those hidden patterns into the light.
And by recognizing them, naming them, maybe figuring out where they came from, that's where the change happens.
That's when the transformation can begin, yeah.
Yeah.
You stop being a puppet pulled by those automatic reactions.
And you gain the ability to choose your response with more awareness, more discernment, more freedom.
And as you get better at observing yourself, you might notice something.
Yeah.
Surprising about the criticism that really gets under your skin.
Okay.
Which leads to this really interesting, almost counterintuitive idea that popped up a lot, the actual power of criticism.
Right, because our first instinct is just criticism bad, avoid.
Totally. We're conditioned to see it as failure, inadequacy, maybe even personal attack. We think the ideal world is just constant praise. Right?
Yeah, like a judgment-free zone where our self-esteem just blooms.
But these sources argue that view, while it sounds nice, is actually quite limiting.
How so?
It prevents us from tapping into the surprising potential for growth. The reality is that criticism, especially the kind that really stings, can become a powerful catalyst for building mental resilience. It can be like a disguised invitation to, well, level up.
Okay, interesting. So the psychology behind that is when criticism resonates, even painfully,
it forces you to confront parts of yourself you might rather ignore. And yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Definitely uncomfortable.
But it pushes you out of your mental comfort zone into self-analysis, reassessment.
The transcripts gave some examples, didn't they? Historical ones.
They did. Really compelling ones. Think about Marie Curie, constantly criticized for being a woman in science back then.
Yeah, it must have been brutal.
But she was driven by passion, conviction, revolutionized her field, won 2 Nobel Prizes in different sciences. She could have listened to the haters, but she didn't.
Amazing. Or Nelson Mandela.
Decades of criticism, attacks, imprisonment under an oppressive regime.
And yet he emerged as this incredible symbol of reconciliation and hope. The lesson seems to be, keep your eye on the prize.
Absolutely. Focus on your goals, even in Art Van Gogh.
Ridiculed, misunderstood his whole life.
And now celebrated as a genius. It's tragic he didn't see that recognition himself.
So the pattern isn't that these people avoided criticism.
No, not at all. It was their incredible ability to transform that external negativity into fuel for internal growth.
So the criticisms didn't knock them down, they actually motivated them to deepen strengths, refine skills.
Strengthen convictions, become more resilient, more authentic.
Exactly.
It's like the criticisms weren't just obstacles to push past.
But disguised guides, as one transcript put it beautifully, inviting them to unlock their inner potential.
Like a sculptor chipping away the excess stone to reveal the masterpiece inside.
Precisely, helping carve you into a better version of yourself.
Okay, but still, it's understandable why we question the benefit of criticism, right?
Yeah.
We're so used to linking it with feeling bad about ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And the transcripts acknowledge that. We've been conditioned, often since childhood, to see criticism as unfavorable, something that undermines confidence.
And that conditioning has deep root, personally, culturally.
Yeah. Culturally, we often value social approval. We fear being pushed out. Psychologically, we're social beings. We seek belonging. So the idea that rejection, which criticism can feel like, could actually be good for us, it sounds weird.
And let's be clear, the transcripts do say that destructive criticism, like malicious stuff, or just way too harsh, that can be harmful.
Definitely.
To mental and emotional health. Studies even show social rejection activates brain areas linked to physical pain.
Wow. Okay.
And constant exposure, especially when you're young, formative years, that can lead to internalizing negative beliefs, damaging self-esteem, increasing risk for anxiety, depression.
So it's crucial then to tell the difference between helpful and harmful criticism and also how we take it in.
Exactly. Cognitive behavioral psychology talks about this, the role of our cognitive biases.
Like confirmation bias?
Spot on. Where we selectively focus on criticisms that confirm negative things we already believe about ourselves.
And ignore the positive feedback.
Right. Or negativity bias, where we give way more weight to criticism, even minor stuff, compared to praise.
So the key takeaway isn't accept all criticism or reject all criticism.
No, it's about developing discernment, learning to filter, reframe the messages we get, using them as tools for growth, not just blindly accepting or rejecting.
Filter the good, use it, leave the rest behind.
You got it. And this leads really nicely into another powerful concept that came up, the strength found in vulnerability.
Ah, vulnerability, which Western culture often sees as weak, right?
Totally. We put invulnerability on a pedestal, the strong, silent type who shows no cracks.
Yeah, we associate being vulnerable with being fragile, maybe even feeling shame. So we hide insecurities, push down emotions we don't like.
Put up these perfect facades to protect ourselves from judgment, like walking around in emotional armor, as you said. But what ancient wisdom and modern psychology are telling us is that vulnerability, far from being weakness, is actually the essence of our humanity and the source of inner strength.
Like Brené Brown's work.
Exactly. She's shown through research that vulnerability isn't about being weak or just spilling your guts recklessly. It's about having the courage to be authentic, imperfect, real, even when you're scared of rejection.
And Carl Rogers, the psychotherapist.
He emphasized authenticity, congruent. True growth happens when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, open to the full range of our emotions, good and bad.
Even old spiritual traditions like Buddhism.
They value impermanence,
Yeah.
accepting pain as part of being human. Self-compassion comes in here too, treating ourselves kindly like we would a friend who's suffering.
And trying to be invulnerable all the time. One transcript called it an illusion.
It is an illusion, and it distances us from our true selves, prevents real connection. Trying to be strong all the time actually cuts us off from what makes us human.
So it's in that shared vulnerability that we find empathy, compassion, resilience.
Yes, and the ability to love and be loved authentically. Real strength isn't about dodging pain or chasing approval. It's embracing our imperfect humanity, flaws and all.
Okay, this is all making sense theoretically, but how do we actually do this? How do we build this unshakable mind the transcripts mention? Are there practical tools?
Absolutely. The first big one highlighted is mindfulness or attentive presence.
Just being present.
Yeah. So when criticism hit, instead of that knee-jerk defensiveness or self-attack, pause. Take a deep breath. Observe the emotions coming up. Notice the thoughts swirling around, but just observe without judgment, like you're watching a movie of your inner experience.
That pause creates space, right, between the trigger and the reaction.
Exactly. Space to choose a more thoughtful response, not just an automatic one. It's about being here, now, not lost in the past or worrying about the future, taking that breath instead of just lashing out or crumbling.
Okay, mindfulness. What else?
Second essential tool, self-compassion. Develop it.
Being kind to yourself.
Yes. When criticism hurts, remember, you're human, imperfect. You make mistakes, like everyone. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd give a dear friend who's hurting.
Maybe use some phrases.
Yeah, like, may I be kind to myself in this tough moment, or may I accept myself as I am, imperfections included. Sounds simple, but it's powerful.
Okay, and the third one.
Cognitive restructuring. This is about challenging those negative automatic thoughts that pop up after criticism.
So questioning the thought.
Asking yourself, is this criticism 100% true? Is there another way to look at this? What was the intention behind it? Even if there's a grain of truth, does it define my entire worth?
Remembering you're more than just one comment or mistake.
Precisely. You are much more than any isolated criticism.
Some transcripts also mention developing self-awareness, like Jung's silent observer.
Yeah, same idea. Pausing, observing your reaction without getting swept away, asking, what part of me is reacting here? Is this external thing the only cause? Recognizing external events only have power if something inside you lets them.
And then there's shadow integration, also from Jung.
Right. Connecting back to individuation, bringing hidden parts, fears, insecurities into the light consciously.
By acknowledging them, they lose some power, or you can use them differently.
You can use them as a source of strength, even wisdom. Your wounds don't have to define you forever.
What other tools came up? I remember challenging the internal narrative.
Yes, questioning those limiting beliefs. Are they really true now, or just echoes from the past? And consciously feeding your mind more empowering beliefs.
Setting boundaries sounded important too.
Crucial. Learning to say no without feeling guilty. Prioritizing yourself without fearing abandonment.
And letting go of the need to control everything.
Big one. Accepting what you can't control, circumstances, other people, and focusing on what you can. Your perception, your reaction, your inner state.
Because attachment to external things makes you vulnerable.
Leads to vulnerability, yeah. Attachment brings freedom.
And finally, inner silence, introspection.
Just dedicating moments to be with yourself. No distraction. Becoming aware of your true feelings, needs, your intuition.
This all seems to circle back to this idea about control, the illusion of control.
Yes, that came up repeatedly. This obsession we have with controlling emotions, thoughts, reactions, others, the future.
It's exhausting just listing it.
Right. And the assertion in these sources is that this desire for control is ultimately an illusion and a major source of suffering.
So true peace isn't about controlling life.
It's about trusting your ability to handle whatever life throws at you, developing inner certainty, getting comfortable with uncertainty.
Because suffering comes from resisting reality, wanting things to be different.
Exactly. The key seems to be accepting what you can't control and shifting focus inward to your internal state.
One transcript said, Life is a mirror reflecting your inner state.
Cultivate inner peace to see peace in the beautifully put. Change really does start within.
And this inner peace, it's not just about gritting your teeth through hard times, is it? It's resilience as transformation.
Yeah, true resilience isn't just bouncing back. It's transforming suffering into actual growth.
Turning pain into fuel, asking how you can use it to get stronger.
Yes, adversity can shape us if we let it. Pain is inevitable, we know that. But suffering
Is optional, depending on how we interpret the pain.
that's the idea. You can choose to turn it into fuel.
Like the forest needing fire to regenerate, or coal needing pressure to become a diamond.
Great analogy. Challenges can strengthen you, but only if you allow them to. You have to engage with them in that way.
Another really key insight felt like detaching from a fixed identity.
We cling so tightly to this idea of who we are based on our story, past wounds, old beliefs.
And remembering shadow integration is part of letting go of that fig.
Right. And that clinging, the transcript suggests, becomes a prison, blocks peace.
Achieving that unshakable peace might even mean being willing to, die psychologically.
Let go of the past self. Yeah. Open up to the possibility of being someone new.
So stop clinging to that fixed identity. Stop reacting automatically based on it. Break free from self-imposed limits.
Which leads right into emotional responsibility.
Taking ownership.
Every emotion, thought, reaction, it's an opportunity to take control of your own story instead of blaming others for how you feel.
See every emotion as a message, an opportunity to evolve.
Exactly. Taking responsibility for your interpretations, your reactions, not feeling like a victim of circumstance.
And ultimately, it seems inner peace isn't something you just find out there.
No, it's described consistently as a choice and a practice.
Something you build day by day, thought by thought.
Decision by decision. Peace requires effort. It's the result of what you choose to allow in your mind, what you decide to let go of, how you interpret everything.
Nobody can just give it to you.
No, it takes your effort. Facing yourself, questioning beliefs, letting go of the past, accepting the present, stopping the fear of the future, and like you said, being present. That's key.
Ultimately, you can choose peace right now in this moment.
By deciding how you're going to live right now, your state of mind really does determine your quality of life.
Okay. So, the learner. Let's try and recap some key takeaways from this deep dive. Wow, there was a lot.
It really was.
We talked about the trap of external validation, how it can imprison us. We got into Jung's idea of individuation as a path to inner freedom.
We looked at the surprising benefits criticism can offer, but also the importance of discerning the helpful from the harmful.
We highlighted the incredible strength found in vulnerability and offered practical tools, mindfulness, self-compassion, cognitive restructuring.
To build that resilience, we also touched on the power of acceptance over control. Resilience as transformation, detaching from a fixed identity.
And that ultimate responsibility we each have for our own emotional state. Phew, definitely a lot to unpack.
For sure. And now, maybe a final thought to mull over. The learner. Consider this. If the peace you've been searching for out there has actually always resided within you, what small, maybe, but significant step will you take today to start clearing away those internal obstacles and finally claim that peace as your own?
What story about yourself might be ready to be rewritten?
Ultimately, yeah, what action will you take today?
Definitely something to think about. The depth here, the way these ideas connect, lots to reflect on and explore further in your own life. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.